Welcome back to another edition of the podcast as we look towards the National League playoff final between Southend United and Oldham Athletic. Tonight's podcast is in association with NL Full Time. I'm delighted to be joined by Rob, but also we've got a very special guest tonight, a National League playoff veteran. He's got back-to-back promotions via the playoffs. It is, of course, Callum Reynolds. Callum, firstly, how are you doing?
On cloud nine, got promoted again previous weekend, and then this bank holiday weekend I've just been married. So Chelsea are winning at the minute 2-1 in the European Cup final. So at the minute, I don't know how it could get much better.
Fair enough then. And Rob, yourself, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing really well. It's been a busy day, busy week, but I'm really looking forward to the National League final on Sunday. I think particularly so because we've just had that little break now, at the end of the season. And so we've had a couple of weeks. I mean, I don't think it's ideal for the teams involved having this long gap. But for us, we've had a chance to catch breath and looking forward to Wembley on Sunday. And looking forward to just tapping into Callum's experiences a little bit tonight. You and I had a little chat off air about who would be the ideal person to get on. And to be honest, we've got him as far as a player's concerned. Callum, you're going to correct me. I've done a bit of research, but your memory will probably be better. I've got you being involved in at least 6 playoffs. Do you make it 6 or more?
I think when we talked after it was a Dorking game that I caught up with you, didn't it? Wasn't it? I feel like 7 out of the last 10 years I've been involved in the playoffs, and I've got to 3 finals and thankfully never lost one. I've not suffered defeat in a playoff final yet, which is obviously a good trait to have. But I've lost obviously more playoff campaigns than I have won, which kind of just reaffirms how hard it actually is to go up through the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. There can be a feeling, can't there, that certain teams, 1 or 2 teams, maybe more, will target the title each year. But there's probably 12, 15 teams that start the season with the goal through a 46-game league season of let's make the playoffs. It's put up there as the goal all through the season. But then, of course, you get there and there's still so much more to do, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think what was brilliant last season with Bromley is the gaffer. He always said the goal was promotion. It wasn't playoffs, it was promotion, however that looked. Obviously, we had a go up until I think maybe Christmas, January time with Chesterfield, and then they just pulled away from us. But it wasn't like we ever changed our goal. The goal was promotion. It wasn't playoffs, because if you just say you want to make playoffs and you make it, sometimes then, I don't know, mentally you relax, and it's like, I know it's only a small thing, but I think it's massive for mentality, especially because depending on where you finish as well, depending on how many games you play, and that can affect a lot. And this year, I think, is the lowest I've finished in this new format of the playoffs, and still got promoted. I remember the first year at Aldershot. Well, going back before the first time I got promoted with Boreham Wood, it was 1-5. Obviously, 1 going up, so 2-5 home and away legs. And then the first year with Aldershot, it was still the same. We finished 5th, played 2 games against Tranmere. And then the next year was the first year where you had the change of format. We had a home game, so we must have finished 4th or 5th against Ebbsfleet. But we lost on penalties. So it's, yeah, sort of coming back to the question. It's definitely something that stuck with me, and just as you were saying that, popped into my head, to have that goal of promotion, not just make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's worth noting that in that playoff win with Boreham Wood in 2015, you captained them to that, and you were the Aldershot Town captain as well in 2017 and 2018. One of the things I want to try and touch on today is the feelings, and obviously extreme highs of emotion if you win and extreme lows what was it like if we take the 2 Aldershot years, the defeats to Tranmere and to Ebbsfleet as skipper as well, wasn't it? Just can you go back to what that felt like?
Yeah, the Tranmere one, we lost it in the first leg, which I don't know what your language barrier is on the podcast, but that really pissed me off. Sorry, it's just gone 3-1 Chelsea, so that's why I'm smiling a bit more.
Yeah.
Talking about a time where I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And it was early. I remember, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but Jim Kellerman was a young player. He got caught, I think, on the edge of the box early in the game at home. And they scored. And I feel like it was maybe 2-0 at half time. And they scored on a breakaway in the second half where, looking back, we might have been dominating in the second half, thinking we're getting back into the game. One breakaway move. I remember a cross from, I think it might have been Norwood, and it just went through my legs. So whoever finished it was 3-0. And I just thought that was a big learning curve, obviously on the big stage. But looking back at that Tranmere team, the experience they had, I think, compared to us was years, hundreds of appearances more. So they've been in position before, probably previous league players. And then the build up to the second game, the away game, training was, we just had to try and enjoy it as much as we could because we didn't really have a chance going there. Obviously, we didn't give up, but the reality was we were outsiders and we had a go. And there was a key moment in the game, and their keeper made a great save from a Rendell header.
I remember it. Yeah,
we won up. Yeah, we had him on the ropes, and if that had gone in, the belief and the change in momentum could have changed things, but unfortunately, it didn't. And then the next year, Ebbsfleet, that was one of the worst times I've ever felt in my football career, I think, aside from getting released as a kid. But as a professional, the pain that night, I remember I was living with Mark Butler at the time, and we just sat there drinking, I don't know if it was brandy or whiskey, which don't taste nice at the best of times. That tasted like defeat, honestly. And it was, yeah, that was a bitter pill to swallow because I feel like we got ahead in extra time. I think we went ahead and then they equalised.
Big Dave Winfield with the equaliser late on, I think, wasn't it?
Remember him, yeah, with the header. And then the penalties, we just fucked it. And I didn't realise till after, Manny Oyeliki was one of the most technically gifted players we had. I don't think he took a penalty, but when the gaffer was taking the lineups, he'd gone to the toilet, so he wasn't around. So it just, but again, with experience, and now I wouldn't allow that to happen. I think I'd be more aware of the situation, who was around.
Exactly.
As well, just coming in, sorry, Rob here. I want to touch as well on momentum in the playoffs. It's a key factor. Particularly, I think this season we've seen that in the National League South and, of course, the National League as well. Do you think finishing second or third actually gives you much of an advantage? Of course, you have to play one less game, but the side who you're coming up against has got so much momentum. And for you personally, as a ball and wood player, did you feel like that initial game gave you that momentum to go away from home and actually cause an upset, of course, against, I think, Eastbourne, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dorking first game and then Torquay away.
Yeah. Oh, Torquay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a strange one because last year we finished third in the end. Barnet was second. And then you had the controversy of Gateshead. So Altrincham never had that first game to play. And we didn't really make it public, but we were fuming because then it was like there's no advantage of finishing third. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, they couldn't reinstate a team and Gateshead couldn't go up. So it was a bit of a unique situation, but I don't know. I think they were buzzing with it more. Obviously, it's like a free bye to the semi-final. But obviously, we were preparing for the game regardless, whoever was going to win or play. So for us, it didn't change it too much. And then, of course, this year, going up through the playoffs, finishing fifth, it's funny because all the managers will say about going into playoffs with momentum and you obviously you do want to have momentum going in, But if you haven't got the momentum going in, you do brush it off. Like, look at Sunderland this year in the Championship. They ended the season terribly, but we actually won 8 games in a row, including the playoffs, which at any stage of the season is ridiculously hard. In them last 5 league games, I think we scored about 20 odd goals. So like, we really were in form, and I think teams did start to fear us. And then you see that first game against Dorking was just mad. Like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I mean, they would love to experience it again if I knew I was going to win, but that is like, you kind of think, no, it's almost them kind of things don't just happen. But then like, we had to get Torquay, and I was aware that obviously sellout crowd, a lot of fans down there, and then I heard they're the best home league this season as well. So it wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't fear them really. I didn't fear them one bit. I think Dorking was probably one of the toughest teams and opponents we could have faced, and thankfully we didn't have them away because the pitch is an advantage. And strangely enough, all the teams that were in the playoffs, there was a lot of AstroTurf, but we didn't play one game in the playoffs on it. And then you do start to believe it's going to be your year. And it's true. Someone said the Torquay manager was at the Dorking game. We didn't play great in the first half. Obviously, the sending off changed the game, and we just went for it and we won it. But at 3-3, someone had heard him in the stand saying, "Oh, that's great, extra time, so we'll get them when they're tired anyway." And then that last minute winner, I know, would have deflated him, and because like it had got in his head 100%. But yeah, you do want to have momentum going in. That is true. But I don't know how much it does count for, but obviously this year it worked in our favour.
Callum, one of the things that I wanted to highlight, it wasn't particularly in the plan for the questions, but I've just remembered something from that night against Dorking. Football brings the highest and the lowest emotions, and understandably, some of the players get very, very excited. Do you find yourself your little bit of extra experience, and having tasted defeat in the playoffs, having won them? I was speaking to you after the game, and you were so much more on a level after that game than a lot of the players, weren't you? And very gracious in victory. And I think that's an important quality in life sometimes, to be gracious in victory and gracious in defeat.
Yeah, do you know what? It's strange because I knew with the penalty at Bromley we were going to win, as in like with Webster's winning penalty. And there's a picture, and the lads, they just set off streaming, and I just stood there smiling. I didn't move because I just knew that. Don't ask me how, but I just knew he was going to score, and that was going to send us up. I just remember dropping to my knees just with relief or whatever first, and then actually just going up to the Solio lads and just shaking their hands. There's nothing you can say after that. Like, there's no words, just shaking their hands. And yeah, after that Dorking game, just obviously, like, there was big celebrations, and the last goal, obviously, we celebrated because it was the end, and we kind of knew the game was won. But once the whistle was done, like I said, there was another game to go, and then even after beating Torquay was brilliant, there was another game to go. And like you said about the gap between the final and the semi-final, for us, it was 2 weeks as well. And I've never waited 2 weeks to play, especially a big game. I'd had enough. I didn't even train. The day before the game, I didn't train. I said to the manager that 2 days before the game, I said, I've had enough. Like, I'm ready. I don't need to train. I need to kind of pull back so I know for the final and stuff. But yeah, I know how much it can hurt. And even when we scored in the final, it was funny because it was right after half time, probably 46, 47 minutes. And I actually didn't celebrate the goal. The lads obviously went crazy, ran to the corner. I just went straight over to the bench. The bench going crazy. I seen the gaffer just stood there as well. And I was like, fucking tell these lads to calm down. Like, we still got a game to win. Do you know what I mean? It's not done. It wasn't last minute. And similar to the final, I think at Wembley, I remember Cheeky scoring both goals. And obviously I celebrated, but I was just aware, like a job had to be done until that final whistle went, when you can actually relax and enjoy it as such. I know how cruel football can be, and it takes a second to score a goal. So yeah, definitely experience has taught me that along the way.
It's quite interesting, the playoffs in the National League South this season and actually the National League, because there's a lot of similarities. If you actually look at the two finalists from the South, it was 5th versus 7th. In the National League, it's actually 5th versus 7th. If you look at Bournemouth's first game against Dorking, there's a lot of comparisons with the Southend-Rochdale game. I think Southend were 3-1 down to Rochdale, Bournemouth were 3-1 down to Dorking. And it certainly gave, I believe, Southend loads of momentum going into that second game. But also looking at yourselves, it clearly gave you a lot of momentum too. And I don't know, it must have just given you, like I mentioned, just a massive boost going into the final, well, into the semi-final firstly, but then into the final to then win that.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, all the games before, and including that when we scored 4. And I know other teams, they say they don't, but you do look at other teams and what they're doing and how they've been doing. And we'd played Torquay down there. I was injured, but I was watching the game and we battered them, gave them 2 rubbish goals, went 2-0 down, but we came back and we equalised last minute. And I think mentally that dented them. And I think equalised, they let in late against Chelmsford away as well. And I think they had a genuine belief they could win the league on the last day going to Hemel, because Truro still had to win, obviously, but they were playing St Albans, who were fighting for their lives. And I think at one stage there was only 1 goal in it on goal difference. So I think that would have affected them mentally going into the game. But yeah, for us, the momentum going in there and just the belief, and like you said with Southend, I watched the Rochdale game and I watched the extra time and the penalties of the Forest Green Southend. And obviously I know a couple of lads there. I worked under Darren Curry, played with obviously Harry Taylor and Josh Walker. So I've been messaging them throughout the playoffs as well. And I sort of said to them, I was like, you have to believe that you're going to win the. There's no point in going to the final if you don't believe you're going to actually believe you're going to win it. But like you said, the way they've kind of got there, you think it's got to be written for them this year. But in saying that, Oldham just destroyed both their opponents in the 2 games, so they're going to be going there thinking we're full of confidence as well, and we can turn them over. So it's going to be an interesting final. And like I know I was involved in one last year, but there always seems to be drama in most recent years in the National League playoff finals.
So I want to just take you back to particularly last year now. Again, trying to tap into your own experiences, but as we build to sort of previewing what's about to happen at the weekend. Now, with Bromley, you made the playoffs 2 seasons running, but you tasted heartache in the playoffs the first time round. And then, of course, you prevailed the next year at Wembley. Just with Bromley specifically, what, if anything, tangible can you say that you changed or you improved on or you learned from the playoff situation the first year to the second when you went on to win it?
I think the first year, again, playing away twice is a disadvantage in terms of preparation, travelling. Chesterfield was travel the night before to stay in a hotel, which you need to do when you're travelling that far. But again, it's not ideal. People think, oh, you're going to stay in a hotel. It's great. You got a weekend away, but the food's not always the food that you'd normally eat. You're not sleeping in your own bed. Do you know what I mean? And
unless you're Michael Cheek, by the way, you can get beans on toast anywhere, can't you?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's true. That's one thing. But you might be sharing a room with someone. Like there's a lot of factors that can unsettle you. And then having the home game for Bromley, we actually stayed in a hotel the night before the semi-final for the home game, because the gaffer was, whatever anyone says about the gaffer, he's been at the top level and he knows every detail, everything matters. We started coming in last year on Sundays, and the sacrifices we made were crazy, and thank God it paid off. But he knows, he always talks about, this is how the top teams do it. It's how the top teams do it. Like every game at Bromley, we have a pre-match meal. So whether it's at the club at 12 or at a hotel, if we're staying away, or an away game that's close, we'll meet at a hotel. And so we're all doing the right things all the time. So I think that it helps having the home game and the home crowd behind you, because Woking wasn't an easy place to go, and then we won there. It was a big effort, And then to go Chesterfield when their fans are on song as well, it's a hard place to go. And getting a sending off in that game. I know Deji got sent off, and discipline plays a big role in these games. As you saw, Dorking lost a man and it completely swung the game for us there. So yeah, it's just, for me, the experiences I've learned to draw on them every year, and try and use it not just to help myself, but obviously my teammates as well. Some lads that haven't been in that position before.
You talk about experience in the playoffs just there, and of course you alluded to earlier when Bournemouth played Tranmere. The reason they probably won that game was because they had that additional experience that Bournemouth didn't have in that particular season. If you actually look at this final in terms of the playoffs themselves, if you look at Oldham, there's a lot of players that have been involved in playoff matches in the past. The manager knows how to get out of this league via the playoffs. How crucial and how beneficial can that be for Oldham going into the playoff final over Southend?
I think that'll play a massive part, to be honest. I know Southend have got some really good players as well, but like you said, in terms of that experience, playoff experience, even Wembley experience, to go up that way. I remember the week before the game, we went up to Wembley, I think on the Tuesday, maybe after training, look around the changing rooms, look around the stadium, and just familiarize ourselves with the place. Because on the day is a lot of emotion, a lot of things happening. Another good point, actually, I remember on the day was Byron Webster. Again, he's played at Wembley before and won there. And he said, when you come out for the warm-up, we knew where our family and friends were sitting in the corner. He said, go over, see him and wave, because you don't want to be warming up and keep checking. Although when I went, no one was there from my friends or family. So I was in the warm-up trying to play it cool, but I just kind of kept looking. I did catch a couple of mates, just give them a thumbs up, and I think that set me a bit as well. But again, like you said, the manager's got that experience and the know-how of doing it in a final. So it's gonna be interesting. But then you just look at this season, the Championship, Sheffield United, the experience, the manager, and what they've got compared to Sunderland, and like the average age, the young players they've got. Obviously, a foreign manager who's not been in this country before, but they obviously, I guess, went against the grain with how they did it. So, yeah, again, it's a one-off game, and I think on the day, because let's be honest, Oldham, they're an ex-Premier League club. I know a lot of young players playing in the league didn't know it, but I was fully aware of it when they came down. And they're paying a lot of money. Like, let's be honest, they got players on good money there, so I think they were expected to do better. Not putting anything against Southend, because I know they're a big club, and the financial side of it behind the scenes and the back-to-back relegations, it's obviously rocked them. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of expectation on Oldham going into the final. Maybe being the favourites when you look at the size of the club and stuff. But again, the game's won on the pitch in the end of the day.
Callum, key question I've got is the balance that a team or a manager particularly has got to try and find in such a big game, because you can't play it down too much. Everybody knows it's a massive game. But is there also a feeling that if you're not careful, you'll end up playing the occasion and not the game? So you do need to apply all the normal approach and the normal principles you do for any game you're trying to win.
Yeah, definitely. And again, with experience, I know the Oldham gaffer will kind of know how this week's going to look. Well, a bit long. They've had a bit longer, but like you said, the build-up, they're going to be travelling down, I would imagine, the night before, letting players know maybe what the team's going to be, not just on the day, but maybe in the week leading up. So, because there's going to be disappointment. But like you said, there's still a job to do. You have to take the emotion out of it. And the lads that aren't involved to be prepared to come on and help the team to win or even win the game themselves. So there's going to be, and again, this final that I just had, it was so long, just training and training, and it's like you want to be serious and you want to be focused, but you need to try and keep the players entertained and light-hearted, because otherwise it can just bubble over. Like, we had a fight 2 days before the game in training, which is normal, but again, the gaffer liked that because he was like, "We're ready." He knows we're ready. Like, we're ready for the final. It wasn't, it wasn't a bad thing in that situation. And I actually felt it was strange. It gave us more time to think about the game. So there's a lot of thinking time before Sunday now. So again, it's half of it's a mental battle as well, especially players that maybe haven't played at Wembley before. It's kind of, which was nice. Again, visiting the stadium before, I got over the fact that, I mean, I've been to watch Wembley. Supporting Chelsea growing up was brilliant. I went to the old Wembley. I think we won the last FA Cup final at the old one, the first one at the new one. I'd watched Portsmouth win there, watched many games. But to be on the pitch, it's different. I've always dreamt of being on there, but it is completely a different experience.
How do different players deal with the pressure of playing at Wembley? Because, of course, for both sides, particularly Southend, there's going to be a lot of players that have not actually ever played at Wembley in the past. For you personally, and for some of your teammates in the past, how do different players kind of prepare for a final at a stadium like Wembley?
Well, because we spent a lot of time together with Bromley, and being South London, like away games, and you spend in the hotels. We had the hotel the night before. Do you know what it was? The Hard Rock Hotel right by Marble Arch. When we pulled up, I was thinking, what's the gaffer doing? Liveliest spot in London. Like, I don't know if the kickoff was a bit later in the afternoon, but we had like the whole day before. We were walking up and down Oxford Street, lads, and the next day I grabbed a coffee, took a little wander in Hyde Park. Like, so it was nice. But the gaffer said he'd done it deliberately because there was so much going on. It wasn't a quiet hotel in the countryside where there was no distraction, nothing to think about, which again, from his experience, was a great move. And just trying to do everything, yeah, like a normal match day. I'll turn that on, please, Mel. It's just gone dark. They can't see me. They're trying to be as much as normal as you can on a match day, in terms of your timing of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And I just tried to do my normal thing. Like, we shared a coach journey up to Wembley and just having banter like you normally would. There wasn't, obviously, when you put up to the stadium, was amazing. But I had my own routines. Lads had their own routines where you didn't have to do anything you wouldn't normally do before, because one, you don't want to get thrown off and think because it's a different occasion, a different stadium, you have to do something different. It's like, you've all done a job to get to that point. So just keep doing your job. You've obviously done a good job because you got to that point. If everyone does their job, which we were kind of saying, concentrate on doing your job. Don't try and be this hero who thinks they're going to win it. You're going to have match winners, don't get me wrong, but if everyone does their job, well, to the best of their ability, or as well as they can, or to a high standard, that's what's got you to that point. So just don't veer away from that.
So Callum, Luke, in his fourth and final pod this week, is going to do more of a preview on and give more of his thoughts on how he thinks it'll go. And we will ask you before we close how you think it will go. But let's just do something a little bit different here. The promised land. You had to wait a very long time to get there, or to get back there. But you made it. So whoever prevails on Sunday, what was your experience of the majority, of course, last season with Bromley in the Football League? Describe how it felt, what the differences were, and somewhere in that lot, perhaps cover off what it felt like eventually scoring your first Football League goal as well.
Yeah, I remember we played Harrogate away, was the first game, which kind of put me a bit at ease because I'd played there before. It wasn't like a new experience in a new ground. So I was like, cool, I've played there before. But I'm not gonna lie, I was quite nervous before the game. I'd never been a Football League player before, and I always believed I was good enough. And in my head, I thought I knew I was good enough, but I was like, shit, when this whistle goes, I've actually got to prove everything that I've thought and people have maybe backed me to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a great game, which probably suited us again with our sort of style and hard working team. Again, Cheeky scored the opener, which was brilliant. And we went on to win 2-0, kept a clean sheet. So that brought us great belief in the first game. Then you go straight into the Carabao Cup, and we had a League Two team of Wimbledon, who's now League One. And we made quite a few changes, and I thought we'd done all right. Although we lost the game, I thought we'd done all right. And again, with the changes, different team as well, I kind of thought, right, it's not like it's only 2 games in. It's not panic stations yet. And strangely enough, we had Wimbledon again at home again about 3 days later in the league. And I think we beat them maybe 2-0 again. So again, that starts to give you confidence. And I was like, everyone used to say the higher you go up, the easier it gets. And it does to an extent, because I understand what people say. You do have more time and you're playing with better players, but then you're also playing against better players who they'll show you more respect, but also they can sniff out weaknesses and they'll punish you like if they get a chance. I remember we played Notts County at home. I think we were 2-0 up really early. We ended up losing 4-2, and the front three was, by the end of the game, was Jatta, McGoldrick, and Jody Jones. Then they brought Tom Carroll off the bench, who obviously I knew as a youngster playing in the Premier League for Tottenham. And it was a bit of a reality check, but it was a good one. Because I think we'd lost before to Bradford away, which again was amazing. And they were saying before the game, like, they haven't had a hard test yet. Some of their players in interviews, which the gaffer sort of reminded us before the game. And unfortunately, we had a sending off in 5 minutes, penalty, red card, and we were 1-0 down. But again, I think we actually done all right in the game. And there was periods we got back into it. And with 10 men, we actually done okay. So still, I was thinking, this ain't too bad. But the standard is the experience and know-how. Definitely, there's more to it. There's not really many teams, even the teams that were quite poor this year that we played against, they weren't bad for whatever reasons. They haven't got the results they needed this season, but there's definitely a step up. And I'd say the goalkeepers are a big thing. They're a lot better than the standard in the National League, which again, people that I've spoke to, I've been lucky enough to know players that I've played with that have played at the top level in the Premier League promotion. Well, Matty Ritchie's one of my good friends, and again, he's been promoted from the Championship to the Premier League more than once. And I said to him, "What's the difference?" And it's it sounds cliche because you probably would have heard it, but he said, "In the middle of the pitch, there's not much." He said, "It's both boxes." He said, "You get less chances, and teams that have the chances, they just punish you." And again, I think that's true as you go up the levels. It does that final. It's that final third, both ends. The quality definitely starts to increase. But no, I did really enjoy it. And again, scoring that league goal for me was massive thing. It's down in the history books. Luckily now our games are recorded, so when my girls grow up and I say like I was a professional footballer, I actually could show them a goal to, because I'm sure they won't be excited to see me just doing tackles and blocks and headers. And that's the highlight where I actually got a goal and assist in the same game, so I ticked off 2 boxes with that one. But yeah, brilliant experience, and not just that one. The FA Cup was just one of the most enjoyable games I've ever played in my career.
Newcastle United, wasn't it?
Yeah, to play at St James Park was just, at the time, I think they were the most formed team in Europe. Sold out like St James Park, and I enjoyed it because there was no pressure on us. Obviously, we wanted to do well, and we started really well, and disappointing to not go in 1-0 up at half time. But one of the nicest things, which sounds strange, but being more experienced, never having that opportunity. We played Sheffield United when I was at Barnet and beat them, which was crazy experience, but they were the Championship at the time. But when I got subbed off, and normally you go and sit on the bench, and I didn't. I just put on a jacket and I just walked down the touchline, and I just I looked around to take it all in. Because when you play, people ask you and you don't, you just don't take it when you're so focused. You don't realize, you don't know what's going on around you. But that was a really nice moment to kind of, like, my mum and dad were there, just to look up in the stands. Obviously they're up in the gods, but just look around. It was, yeah, like, to properly take it in. That was that was an amazing experience. And again, not being in the league, it's only 2 games to get there, so it's an advantage, obviously, in getting promoted as well.
Luke, just before we come towards a close and we ask Callum his thoughts on the final itself, just a little moment, if you wouldn't mind. You probably don't know this yet, Callum, but Vanarama are going to stop being the sponsors of the National League after this season, and that they've been there 11 years. As a podcast NL full time, we were asked for the match program for Sunday's final to pick our National League North and National League South team of the decade. And I just wanted to tell you in person that you made my team. You'll be in that program as one of the team of the decade in the National League. And I don't really need to justify it. You've been around all of that time. You've captained teams. You've been in the playoffs. You've won the playoffs, and you made it to the Football League. So congratulations on making that team of the decade as well.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate it. It's it's amazing. It is amazing, and it makes me proud. And again, being more experienced, like, looking back, it's the amount of players that I've played with, and how hard it is to be a professional footballer at any level, but to sustain and maintain at the level that I feel like I've set, and the standard that I've set as well. And it is funny, I've been saying to my mates, I was like, I've had back-to-back promotions and end up in the same league. But but yeah, to taste that promotion for my first time and as the club's was special. But no, thank you, Rob. It's it's an honor, and I'm just thinking I'm gonna have to get hold of a program again.
Yeah.
So the kids one day that actually I wasn't too bad.
Exactly, brilliant. And of course, one of your former colleagues that you teammates that you played with is also a playoff winner this season. Will Evans up at Scunthorpe. He will be back up in the National League, and you'll renew acquaintances with him presumably next season.
Yeah, I messaged him. After just to say we'll be reunited again on opposing teams. So that was nice. Again, I'm pleased for him because he's suffered a lot of playoff heartache as well, and I know how it feels. But yeah, no, I was buzzing for him. Really, really happy. I watched the highlights of that game as well, and obviously I always look out for ex-teammates and players. Even at the wedding, I had Mensah was there, Jim Kellerman and Matty McClure, which is lovely because we had a good team, but like there's some friends from that team that sort of friends for life. Even Rendell got promoted this year, so spoke to each other there just for messages.
Totten, is it back in the National League South or in the National League South next season?
Yeah, so and again, a couple of that couldn't make it, like Jake Cole, still in touch with him. So yeah, it was nice, and it is. You do create although we didn't get promoted, you do create a special bond with these players because you do go through a lot. You spend a lot of time together. So, and again, me were partners in what probably sounds strange, but some of my most enjoyable years in football was playing for Aldershot. I feel like I played well, but I thought as a team we were class. And maybe at another time, maybe with a little bit more experienced players, maybe could have been different. But no, I only look back with really good memories of those years at Aldershot.
And just bringing it back to the main reason for this podcast, talking to a player with a lot of playoff experience ahead of Sunday's final. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you were pushed, can you visualize? Can you kind of manifest who's going to prevail on Sunday?
I want Southend to win it. Just for the boys that I know there, again, like their mates, I'd say they're friends. Dagenham fans probably won't like me saying that. But I gave enough stick to Southend every time we played him and beat him when I was at Dagenham. So it's not it's no love lost there. But just for the people I think that I know and the connections I have with them, would be nice to see. But like I said earlier, with obviously following the National League pages online and on social media, you just go back to all the previous years, and it's almost, it is too hard to call, isn't it? On a final, anything can happen. I just hope it's a great game. That's what I hope. Not like the Europa League final. That was pretty dire watch.
I didn't even watch. I watched the Forest Green. Was it Forest Green Southend? I think we're playing at
that might have been the night. Yeah, so I had the final on, and it was so bad. I did turn it off. So
yeah, I think Rob were doing the same, weren't you? But I think just as well, looking at the final two, just from your experience, of course, you played in a number of finals, particularly at Wembley as well. How do you often see them going early on, and how do players approach it during particularly the early stages compared to the end of the game?
Do you know what? It's funny because when I talk about players and experience, you can sense weakness, you can sense nervousness and vulnerability. And at the start of the game last year, Solihull, I just kept like they were just shitting themselves. It's an easy way to say it. You could tell they were nervous, and I was getting into the forwards' ears because I was battering their defenders. Because they just kick like they're shitting them like you're nervous. And when he didn't say anything back, I was like, "So are you?" I just got in his head early doors because I think we did start really well. I had a few good chances, but then as the game went on, I felt when we went ahead, we was never going to lose. Then they pinned it back. We went ahead again, so I was like, "Yeah, it's done. We're not going to concede again. We're going to be solid." Couple, obviously, first one was a rebound from a good strike, and then a good strike for the second, and then it was strange. I just had this calmness since before the kickoff. I remember Webster's son was the mascot. And when he went to maybe go with the ref, or I introduced the players, shaking their hands on the lineup. And I stood with his son, and I've met him before. And I just said to him, I was like, how cool. I felt like I said, how cool is this? I said, look around. I was like, we're at Wembley. You're the mascot. Your dad's the captain. And it kind of reminded me, I was like, this is literally like dream come true for both of us. And I saw a couple lads, I think when the national anthem was on. And like I always I'm always trying to make jokes and have a laugh because it helps me, but I think it relaxes people. The anthem was going on. I stood next to the gaffer. I see the chairman, Robin, up in the stands. And I was like, look at him. He doesn't even look English. He must have had, I don't know if he'd been on holiday or been hitting the sunbeds, but he was tan as hell. Made a little joke. And I saw some lads that weren't involved in the squad for injury or just not picked. And it kind of just gave me a focus, like it was a team effort. I wanted to do it for them as well. And even in extra time, we hit the bar and rattled the post, went across the goal. And for someone looking in, you kind of would have thought it's not our day, but I never had that feeling. Even the penalty shootout, Benton, who's now my teammate at Bournemouth, his penalty wrapped the inside of the post, went across and hit the side netting. And I said after, as a neutral, you must have loved it, like watching as a fan, not supporting any team, because it had everything, didn't it? But yeah, I think with experience, it will definitely help whoever's going to win it to kind of navigate their way through what's going to be, yeah, again, could be life-changing game. Well, it is for clubs and players and their careers and managers. It's a life-changing game.
100%. And we've seen Oldham, haven't we, already in the playoffs, what they're capable of early doors. And they can put teams to the sword. They put Halifax to the sword in the first eliminator. Within 12 minutes, they were 3-0 up. Against York, yes, it took a little bit more time, but after 50 minutes, they were 3-0 up. How do you think Southend will react to that? Because Oldham have got all the experience. They're the side that are putting sides to the sword in the playoffs compared to Southend, whose games have been a little bit more tighter, equally as entertaining. But how do you think Southend will react to that when they actually look at Oldham? Or do you think it'll be a totally different story because it's a final?
Again, I think, like you said, they were 3-1 down in the quarterfinal. And to come back from that gives you a belief. And I don't know which way did they go one down in the semis. and then go 1-1, and then they went ahead in extra time, and then there was the equaliser. So they've been behind in both games, which again is something, experience they can draw on. One, to know that they can come back, but like you said, in the York game, they just blew him away in I don't know how many minutes, and we done the same to Altrincham in the second half. We won them down at half time last year, and we didn't really panic. I wasn't really panicking, but the gaffer, he did give us a bit of a rocket to be like, lads. And watching the game the night before, Solihull won the game against Barnet in the first. It was game over, season over in one game. So you need to, especially if you do go behind, you need to draw an experience to not let the game get away from you, because, like you said, you score 50 minutes, the game was done. Like, and I think in the final again, it is different. Experienced teams, they're not gonna let it be an open match, and they're gonna do all the things that you can draw on that experience to, like we did in the final. No, it was only 1-0, but I felt comfortable. The most enjoyable part of the game, around 83, 84 minutes, we had a throw in down the right, and we just kept working it down the line. They couldn't clear it. We kept winning throw-ins. Even if they did get it, we got blocks, and they just couldn't get out or get back up the pitch. And there was a time in the game where I just looked around at their forwards, and I just said, I was like, they're gone. I was like, they're gone. You can see mentally, they was like, we're not getting a sniff in here. There's no lobbing it in the box and everyone getting forward to kind of think we're going to get one chance. It was just that experience. Again, we brought on Kwesi. I mean, he's played for Ghana. You can't get much higher level than that and experience. Tyrone Marsh has played, I don't know how many hundreds of games, won the league with Macclesfield in the National League at that level. We brought on Jack Payne, who's won league promotions with Blackpool. Again, just that experience to bring off the bench. Like Bushy came on. There's well over 1,000 games between them. So again, that experience, I helped to just see the game out and not do anything stupid or give up any kind of chances. And yeah, it got us over the line in the end. So it could happen, but again, a big occasion, you never know. Like when I saw the Ashton Gate final flash up the memories and the goalkeeper scoring, they're not things you'd ever think will happen. So I don't know, we'll have to see, but I'm looking forward to the game though, definitely.
Yeah, I was at Ashton Gate, and the strange thing about that is Lucas Kovalan. I get Colavan and Kovaland mixed up. He was brilliant that day with saves, with scoring the late equaliser, all of that. And Brad James in the other end had very little to do, and he got his fingertips to one penalty that took it onto the bar. And that's what won it in the end, wasn't it, for Hartlepool? It's funny how that can happen. You can have a goalkeeper having an incredible game, and he still ended up on the losing side. Luke, just to say, while we're doing this pod, we'll both be at Wembley on Sunday, won't we? I'll be there with Joe Pope, Off the Line blog, recording our usual playoff final pod, of which Callum appeared last year. I managed to thrust my phone under his face as he was coming down the steps with his medal, which was a bit naughty, really. But I caught his eye, and bless you for speaking to me then, Callum. So we'll be putting kind of sound bites together throughout the afternoon. You'll do something similar, but perhaps a little bit more visual, won't you, Luke?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, from my perspective, I've never had the opportunity to do this before, so we're kind of just going to go with it. But rest assured, we will be bringing some content out. I've got one final question for Callum overall, and I think most people will be aware of what this question is. I often put people on the spot on this podcast, Callum, and unfortunately, you've not got away with it yourself. I'm going to have to ask you for an exact prediction for this game.
I'm going to say, John, I'm going to go 2-2, and then extra times, I think Southend are going to win it.
Fair enough, then, Callum.
Yeah, interesting. Personally, I think that if Southend get to half-time level, I think I'll make them slight favourites in the second half. I think there's big potential for Oldham to come out and do and hit them early. And if they ride that, if they see it, I think the longer the game goes on, I think Southend have that more patient game. I think they'll grow into it more. But obviously Oldham have got great quality and great experience. I also think it'll probably go to extra time. But I'm going to go a step further. I think it might well go to penalties as well. So it could be a long afternoon out for us and for all those travelling. We're not going to cover all the ins and outs of the fans and the TFL and all of that on this podcast. You'll probably touch on it, won't you, in your final one? But I just wanted to thank you, Callum. I mean, what an incredible... I mean, thank you for your time, really, because you're literally, as you say, on cloud nine at the moment. You've just... back-to-back playoff winner. You've just got married literally 2 days ago. Honeymoon to come, presumably?
Yes, we're going away next weekend. This weekend, we've got a night in Birmingham together, kid-free. Going to watch John Legend in concert, which will be, I'm looking forward to that. Then, getting away and actually going on a cruise. So I'm looking forward to having no signal on my phone and just have that mental reset and just actually relax and enjoy the time off, because as soon as I'm back, I think end of June, we're straight back into the thick of it. And then, the new season will be here before we know it.
And just finally, particularly thank you for your time on this evening. I know we didn't quite realise, did we, when we planned it, that Chelsea were, which is the team you support, were in the Europa Conference final. I'm delighted to say that while we've been doing this, they went on to seal the deal 3-1, and you've had to watch a little bit out the corner of your eye at the moment, the celebrations.
Well, the good thing is they went ahead just before we came on. If it was a bit closer, I might have just been watching that and saying, sorry, would you say a bit more? But it was comfortable win in the end. So, all my teams will just keep winning.
The party goes on, Callum. The party goes on.
Rob, just for you finally then, would you like to give your page a plug? And once again, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, NL Full Time is largely an audio podcast, comes out every week. We'll have just probably one more edition to cover the promotion final experience, myself and Joe. That'll be out within 24 hours or so after the National League final at Wembley. All the best to all the Oldham and the Southend supporters that have managed to get tickets. Have a fantastic day. And if you possibly can be on the winning side. I waited 51 years as an Aldershot Town supporter to see my team play at Wembley, and I got that experience just a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to take some topping. So suck it up if you don't win, and if you do, enjoy it and enjoy that feeling.
In comparison, I only waited 5 to see Halifax in the playoff final, and that's not even the first time. It was the second time. The only time I actually went, I didn't go to the first one. But Callum, no, for me personally, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you're very busy at the moment, you're on cloud nine, and it is good to have your positivity, but also your experience of what it's like in the playoffs.
Pleasure. Again, I do enjoy coming on and doing podcasts. Obviously, I know Rob really well now for quite a few years, and once you get going, I don't mind talking. So probably a better guest than some others. But it's been a pleasure, mate. And good luck to you. They said you was you 18?
Yeah, I don't look it. I often get some dirty looks, to be honest, when I go into the old bar with me ID. So yeah.
It's brilliant, mate. I mean, to have the courage and just to do something like this. I know a lot of people do podcasts, and it seems to be, people say, saturated, but it's been good. And again, like, you're young, enthusiastic, and it'll take you a long way, though. So keep up the good work, mate.
Well, I do really appreciate that, and for the kind words as well. Just for me personally, I unfortunately I've got to do a plug on the channel. This is the final section of the previews that we're doing towards the final. Of course, the elephant in the room is you didn't hear my prediction in the final 5 minutes or so of that podcast. Tomorrow night, I'm delighted to say I'll be joined by Sam Collier to preview the playoff final quite in depth with him. Of course, he's quite educated on the division overall, more than me, certainly, with his stats. But we'll be recording that tomorrow night, and that will be going out on Friday. This preview at the moment will actually be out on Thursday morning. You'll be watching that then. Please remember to check out our sponsors cards accepted. There's a link in the description for you to do that. You get 50% off your card machine if you do that. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to become a channel member, it is just £2.99 a month, and you'll get early access to interviews like this one. Lads, I do really appreciate you coming on once again, and I appreciate everyone that's tuned in tonight, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.